I wanted to have John Mark Staude back on the air with us. He is the president and CEO of Riverside Resources. Number one, when he was on the air with us the first time, we had a ton of people email about their company. By the way, they are publicly traded here in the States, RVSDF. I will put that up on our website at bigbizshow.com because you're never going to remember that stock symbol. But the reason I'm bringing this up to you is because gold has really come into favor in these last few weeks because of what's going on with
globally.
Globally, yeah, that's exactly right, and you can't really deny it. So the fact of the matter is, Dr. John Mark understands geology in this market better than almost anyone we've ever interviewed in the 22 years we've been on the radio. So I thought we'd bring him back. John, great to have you on, sir. So did you here's what's interesting. You saw this coming. You said that we could see a surge as a result of what's happening in the global markets, and sure enough, that happened. Boy, you're the smartest guy in the room suddenly. I knew you always were, but now we have validation.
Yeah, well, I think three things that are happening. One is the interest rates, when we see what's happening with the Fed. The second is what's happening in Hong Kong and China, really important. And the third is what's happening with oil. All three of those things point to gold going up. And so, yeah, we saw it happening and progressed, and so it was coming, and it was delighted to see it. But yeah, I didn't know it was going to happen so strongly and so quickly. So it's excellent, and it has a good run going forward. Also, quite a bullish moment now for gold.
Could you have predicted because obviously the market has been moving in the direction because of the China trade deal, as well as we're talking geopolitical issues around the U.S. Did you sort of see that happen because? Gold bounced. You guys had a highest daily tumble in more than a year. Then all of a sudden the China trade deal came around. All of a sudden you're back in favor for the reasons that you just mentioned. Do you think all this has to do with geopolitical, or is this the fact that it's economic principles that are driving this, or is it a little bit of both?
It's a lot of both, but it's a lot of economic principles. And one of the things is inflation. I think one thing is that if we do stop being hawkish about things and we start to do things like that, then that definitely pushes on gold. I think the other thing is that world trade currencies. And so basically, gold is not that we're going to a gold standard, but that actually it is a wished-for commodity, and it backs up strength in commodities. So I think those are two things that are definitely affecting. So definitely we saw it coming, and I think it's going to continue to push hard. Yes.
John Mark Staude is the president and CEO of Riverside Resources. I do want to talk about your company one more second, but I want to talk, even today, the Dow Jones fell to a session low just as gold surges at close to $14.25 an ounce. Now, let's think about that because, the higher that's a high trading range. Like the 1385 to 1450 is an exceedingly high trading range. If you look at a chart of how gold is, since gold is a commodity and not a stock, let's not confuse how it trades, right? This could be sustainable. This is not a fear and greed trade. This is a commodity trade. Talk about that because when gold starts moving in the right direction, there's even more of an inertia that happens than with stocks, because stock inertia can move on a dime with a presidential tweet or bad news out of Washington or anywhere else. Gold, not so much. I think there's more inertia here, don't you?
Totally, Sully. You know what's happening is that gold is a commodity that has to be produced, and our costs of production have continued to go up, and it was really getting squeezed. So now we can actually get more production growth and definitely see that it's a commodity. It isn't something that just goes up and down, but actually can be sustained. And although we've seen it not go up in a relative sense, now it is, because you can see at a dollar pricing, the dollar's gotten stronger and stronger. If the dollar stops getting strong and starts to soften, then we'll see it go up. Gold's actually been high in other commodities, such as the other prices, such as the Canadian dollar and the Australian dollar has actually been at high levels because those commodities, those prices were actually low. But right now, we definitely see that if dollar starts to weaken and its exchange rate, that'll definitely force gold to go up even more.
Dr. John Mark Staude is the president and CEO of Riverside Resources. Talk about Riverside Resources. Where do you operate? What do you do? What's your business model out there? Because right on your website, it talks about driven by value, and as well as obviously some of the places that you guys mine. Talk about your the whole concept there.
Exactly. So we get value from owning gold resources in the ground. What we do is we do prospect generation. We go out on the ground, find projects that have good potential, and then we develop partnerships. We actually have a partnership now with the world's largest mining company, BHP, for example. And what we do is we do the technical work on the ground, develop the projects so the shareholders of our company have interest in royalties, interest in cash flows, interest in takeout of the company based on multiple different commodities, and particularly gold. And we do that in Mexico, the United States, and Canada. So we're geographically diverse, and we have a very strong business model. Been able to operate for 14 years with no debt. It really makes for a great way to play the market right now for gold going up. Riverside's a terrific type of company to have.
And I bet it's a great product. If you'd like to send us a sample, we'd be more than happy to run it through.
Yeah, you want a gold sample?
I need a medallion for a disco party I got coming up.
Of course, the name of the company, Riverside Resources. They are publicly traded up in Canada as well. You guys are based in Canada. I should explain, but you're also trading in the U.S. So you're both on the TSX Venture Exchange under the stock symbol RRI, and here in the U.S., you're on RVSDF. Talk about the differences with respect to the markets, gold markets, which we saw surge in the mid '90s versus what's happening now. Because again, I think we're in a stronger position now, even though everything else is in place. I think gold and precious metals are maybe one of the best times it's ever been. Don't you think?
It really is. I think two of the things that we forget about is population. It's become so much more difficult to develop mines, the bureaucracy, the challenges today. The second thing is now with the internet communication, so now any type of problem really gets spread around the world very quickly. So today it makes it much more difficult to bring on new mines and to progress mines as it did in the past. So definitely it's quite a bullish time for gold. Existing producers or companies like ourselves that own resources in the ground are in a great position because it gets so much difficult today to develop new projects, not in my backyard, not in my country. All the different policies really are making it hard. So gold has to go up because there isn't an ability to bring on new supply. You can't react quickly. You can't get all the permits. It's a really bullish time.
Talk about gold resources in the ground. I've heard it said a number of times that they've only made
X amount
two Olympic-sized swimming pools. Is that accurate?
It's two Olympic swimming pools and one kiddie pool, the 3-ring that you inflate. That's what it's.
How much gold is there in the ground, really? Do we know?
So actually, that's interesting because there's gold in the ground, but I think you're talking about how much gold's out of the ground in vaults and things like that, because we generally conserve it in terms of jewelry and things like that. How much gold into the ground is actually difficult to know because it goes down to small amounts, but really there isn't very much. It's quite rare, particularly in concentrations that can be taken out. So when we look at it, the real value is much higher than people put on it, and also the ability to get out of the ground. It's not super easy. It takes a lot of energy, takes a lot of permits, takes a lot of time. So it's quite a scarce commodity.
I have a question. If we were walking around San Diego, California, let's say on a hike at Torrey Pines, looking over the Pacific Ocean, and all of a sudden off to the right,
sparkle?
There's a sparkle, and we find a softball-size lump of gold.
Yes.
Who owns that gold? Is that the state of California or is it finders keepers? And I'm not asking you to go for, I mean, just generally speaking, I'm not asking you to talk about U.S. law, but let's just say I was walking around Canada. I don't care.
Yeah.
Whose gold is that?
It's named. It's finders keepers. You found it now. Is it on someone's mineral claim? So there at Torrey Pines, hard to have a mineral claim. That real estate's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
But basically, the U.S. government has licenses, and you can get licenses from the U.S. government in order to do mineral exploration and prospecting and mining. That's what Riverside has. But if you go out on the ground and there's no license there, it's open ground, it's owned by the federal government, it's yours. And that's what prospectors have done for decades. Now, if you start to try to extract and go into a big mine and do things like that, you need permits. And environmentally need to do that. But if you're just walking out on someone's thing and it's not held by someone's claim, then you've got it. If it's on someone's claim, they own it and it's their rights, and you've gone and actually trespassed and taken something from their mineral rights.
This is why we have him on the air. He's the smartest guy there. John Mark, thank you so much. John Mark Staude, we're going to have you back, definitely. Love to.
How about if I'm walking down the beach and I find a pound of marijuana that washed up on shore?
And you're in jail.
No, but okay, I got to go.